aircraft incoming! Enemy team captured the area. Our team captured the area. Nice shot! Torpedoes! Enemy aircraft incoming! Enemy aircraft incoming! Enemy team captured the area. The ship is on fire! Enemy aircraft incoming! Precise aim activated. Enemy aircraft incoming! Anti-aircraft gun on full alert. Enemy torpedoes spotted! Enemy ship destroyed! Enemy aircraft incoming! Aircraft incoming! Nice shot!
Hello everyone and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry and a new Dutch cruiser. Well, it's a premium and it's at tier 10 and it looks suspiciously like the Gouden Leeuw. But this is the Prins van Oranje, a tier 10 premium, well, very heavy cruiser, but with an interesting twist. Now, given that the Gouden Leeuw didn't exist, this was more of a design draft for what if we did something to counter Japanese cruisers in the Far East. This is equally hypothetical, and as such, the big difference, if we're looking at the warship info here, says that she uses British guns. Highlighting a collaboration between Britain and the Netherlands during World War II for obvious reasons, but of course they never did build this kind of ship. But it gives us an inkling of what is to come. So, how do the two of them stack up? And if these are British guns, how do they compare to the Goliath? We'll take a look at that. The Gouden Leeuw does have a bit of a problem. Well, part of its problem is that it is a very big cruiser. And as such, at tier 10, a prime target for being farmed by ships with very big guns. And it doesn't quite have the range to assault them from afar, especially when it comes to the dive bombers. And it doesn't quite have the mobility to do anything about it while it is closer up. The Gouden Leeuw does get the unique equipment, which makes the airstrike this much more effective, because it gives you an additional airstrike, which is huge, and it reduces the reload by 20%. The Prins van Oranje, being a premium, obviously doesn't get that, but she does get a better sonar, and she does get a better precise aiming. We're losing a small amount of hit points. Other than that, it's the same hull. The speed and maneuverability is for all intents and purposes the same, but the guns, this is where the big one comes in. So the Gouden Leeuw had German 283mm guns. It's basically Scharnhorst guns. And there were 9 of them, which was okay, but you would be sort of bow in most of the time. They took a long time to reload, and they didn't quite have enough punch to really do something with the armor piercing at tier 10 unless you are facing cruisers at point blank range, and were not quite as useful against destroyers, mostly due to the extremely long reload, which meant that the sonar was more of a nicety. The Prins van Oranje now has the British 234mm guns with an 11.5 second base reload, which is refreshingly quick for the British. She does get a better range with 12.1 kilometers, and as you would expect from a British gun, the high explosive on these guns is excellent. The armor piercing is pretty terrible, but the high explosive is very, very good on these guns. Does a little bit less damage and only in air quotes a 9% fire chance, but with an 11.5 second base reload, that is not bad. And they rotate a bit quicker as well, so you don't actually have battleship turret rotation on these things. The AA is basically the same. You've got an inkling more range, and you pay for it by a slightly higher surface detection. But the dive bomb or the airstrike, the level bombers that we get, they do the same amount of they have the same amount of planes. They do a bit more damage, and especially have a significantly improved fire chance. So that combination, where the Gouden Leo can often struggle to get anything done because she's not that great against destroyers, and she is struggling against larger ships, against pretty much every other ship. The Prins van Oranje has a bit of a more sensible setup which is geared towards pure fire starting. So let's compare her to the Goliath then, the British, admittedly not very good tier 10 heavy cruiser. Now, obviously, we don't get any of the fancy super heals or extra heals or torpedoes, but what we're mostly interested in is just to compare the guns between the two. And this is really where she shines. 12 guns, faster, 2-second faster base reload than the British, and a longer range. Yes, their fire chance is a bit lower, the damage output is a bit lower, but I think 2-second faster base reload more than compensate for that. And that makes this a somewhat interesting ship. Now, how can we set her up then? We get the choice. Well, we don't really get the choice. You could go for max speed and acceleration. And don't get me wrong, that's not a bad stat to have. Actually, this is a stat that if the alternative is, 3% more torpedo damage or 1% more hit points, I'd gladly take it. But you get 4% main battery range, and this is very much something you want. So 4% main battery range it is. There is a camouflage, a historical camouflage, which is a little bland. Honestly, for something of that name, it could have been a bit more orange. But well, at least it flies a nice Dutch flag on it. And hit points, okay, we'll take it. Range, yes, please. Large caliber AA range, yes, please. And torpedo damage reduction, nobody cares. So it's your classic 3 useful, 1 meh skill kind of camo. There is also a unique camo if you want to make, well, yes, it makes the ship orange, but it also makes it on fire, and it sticks what looks like a wolf's head in front of it that also spits fire. Yes, I get it, Wargaming. This is an HE spammer. You're putting it a little bit on the nose here, to be honest. This gives us hit points, range, AA range, and airstrike bomber HP. So purely stats-wise, this is the better camo. Although I doubt that the bomber HP is making a massive difference. But, you know, against AA heavy ships that have nothing better to do, it might be usable. But I will not be seen dead sailing around in this thing. So for all of you who have a different sense of aesthetics or who don't really care what it looks like, this is the better camo. For everybody else, that is what the ship's going to be looking like. Thank you very much. Equipment-wise, you can get the Airstrike Mod 1 for the reload, but honestly, yes, it's nice, but it's not the legendary module. I've actually ended up just using main battery mod 3 because where the Count Leo really struggled to make anything happen with the gun. The gun on the Prinz van Oranje, the guns are not bad. First of all, you've got 12 of them, which is a good number. You've got a good fire chance on them, and they are already pretty precise. So with the main battery mod 3, you can become really a veritable HE spammer, and the level bombers are a bonus. But don't get me wrong, that is a very legit ship module to use as well. So 8% reload time of the bombers is nothing to sneeze at. But it's just if you feel like you get more done with the guns on the ship, it can actually be a more viable choice. And yes, concealment is kind of a must-have on a ship of this type at this tier, because you will just be deleted by Vermonts of halfway across the map. Otherwise, you need to be able to get into cover, and you need to be able to position before getting spotted. Otherwise, you will be obliterated very, very quickly. Now, as is common and customary, I've played 2 games, one with a regular setup, no historical camo, and a regular commander. But if you are so inclined and you do have Mr. De Ruyter here, you can put him in. He's bringing some interesting skills to the table. So you got the Air Defense Expert Plus, which is obviously, if you're playing against carriers, a pretty nice skill to have, because this thing does have a good AA. He does get the improved extinguisher, so if you are getting set on fire by said carrier, it's not the end of the world. The more important skill, the infamous Dying Flutchman skill, that gives you 8% speed on the airstrike squadron, and I would have loved for this to also give you faster reload on it, but we can't have everything. It's a good one to have, because it reduces the amount of time that the target has to actually go and dodge. And Horizontal Protection Expert is what we're taking as the legendary. Now, in terms of talents, I'm using the tactical shooter, obviously. Spotting 3 enemies isn't actually the easiest part, but it does give us 3% main battery range, which is very, very useful to have. You could go for 35 main battery hits for the traverse speed, which is also nice to have. But honestly, if I can get 4% extra range on the ship, it's very much worth it, especially towards the late game, where you'll be running out of hit points very quickly. Then for a kill, you get more speed and maneuverability, which is also great to have, because again, you don't have armor, you have terrible armor, you have just sufficient armor to make sure that any kind of 18-inch shell that comes your way gets its fuse activated right about in the middle of the ship and then blows up there, including everything around it, which is to be avoided. So dodging is your only hope if you have to play out in the open. Ideally, you wouldn't have to play out in the open. You don't get American cruiser shell ballistics, so shooting over islands is actually quite difficult in the ship, which means that it's about positioning, and that is about speed. And then lastly, if you set 7 fires, you get increased shell velocity and more bomb penetration, which, you're not going to score citadels with the bombs, but they do a lot of damage, and you really need to lean into these to pad your damage stats in the ship. But yeah, these are the talents. So first battle, regular setup, second battle in the long run. Now, where do you acquire this ship? I believe it's in a sonar sweep. Yes, that's where it is. So yes, sonar sweep, and let's check the probability. Now, these probabilities are going to increase, I believe, but as you unlock things, the probability gets a bit better. But don't expect to pull this ship on the first go. It is a 0.06% chance to get it for 50 gold. So be, as usual, wary of gambling mechanics. In this particular case, you might already sink, 10,000 gold into it and thinking, okay, now that I've already sunk 10,000 gold into it, I'm going to have to buy more gold because it will be wasted otherwise, right? So yeah, be careful with those. Anyway, If it's not for you and you say, no, I do not wish to gamble for the ship, then at least you know what you're up against when you see something on the enemy team, because I guarantee you, no matter how bad the odds are, there's going to be someone out there who's going to spend the money and get the ship. The first round is a game on a map that is actually not ideal for the ship. We are facing Thundra, Bourgogne, Schlieffen, Yodo, and 3 destroyers, Black Shima, Shima, and Gearing. Why is it not ideal? Well, it's a center control map. And a center control map requires somebody to be in the center and in the capture circle, which if you have things like a Bourgogne out there, is not something you necessarily want to do. Which means you have to rely on my team to do that, which generally leads to, well, the problem that you have to rely on your team to do something sensible. Anyway. We are spawning left flank, so I'm going to support the Gearing over here, and no, I'm not going to sail into the capture circle. And yeah, you can complain about that as much as you want. I am not in a cruiser, I am in a super cruiser, and like heck I'm going to go into the capture circle. I'm actually switching to the armor piercing. It can be slightly more effective against destroyers, especially at early spots long range. Hopefully the Gearing will do some scouting down this flank here, and I don't know, maybe go into the capture circle or something. But I'll position at the edge of this island, which gives me some way to hide the majority of the ship, which is poorly armored and does not like being shot at by battleships. At the same time, it gives me some angles to shoot at enemy things. There is the Black Shimakaze, but he has gone undetected. The Gearing has spotted me, the Schlieffen. Okay, then we'll go back to the high explosive then. And the Schlieffen is kind of committed here, so that is very aggressive of him. So let's send the airstrike out first. And then, yep, there comes the fire from the Bourgogne already. So definitely going to be backing up here. We are using the island to defend myself. Single fire on the Schlieffen. Bourgogne probably's got the rapid reload up, so we're going to wait. Schlieffen Damakons a single fire, and Schlieffen is dead. So, yeah, he's dead. You've been too aggressive early on, before everything was scouted. So now the Damakon should be off cooldown, and we'll be setting permafires as we go. There is a Shimakaze in there. I don't have good angles, so we'll just keep shooting the Schlieffen. Now Schlieffen is a dangerous opponent for obvious reasons, but he's now on double permafire, and he's taken another salvo there, and he is taking a beating. He's running into some torpedoes. We'll just go bow in and then switch back to the armor piercing for close range engagements. And maximizing the amount of damage, plus potentially shots at Shimakaze, and no shots. Okay, double fire from the Schlieffen secondaries, triple fire from the Schlieffen secondaries. Okay, I'm going to damage on that. And dead Schlieffen. Okay, you can see even against the stern section of a Schlieffen, which is not a particularly well armored ship, at close range, the armor piercing just does not perform. So these are very much British guns. High explosive is your weapon of choice there. Hello, Mr. Bourgogne. I am not going to go after the destroyers here, but I am going to, because that would mean potentially exposing myself to whatever battleship that is over there. Shimakaze's burnt down the Gearing. Oh no, never mind. Black Shimakaze spotted. Hello, Mr. Black Shimakaze. Okay. Sonar up, and not going to waste an airstrike on that guy. Maybe worth it. Nah, I don't know where he's going. There's Yodo as well. We're going to send the airstrike over at the Bourgogne, who is now finding himself in close quarters combat with the Gearing. Obviously, the sonar has detected the incoming torpedoes, and we'll have some shots out at the Shimakaze. And then again struggle to take the capture circle. So it's going to come down to, I'm being set on fire by the Yodo. It's going to come down to a number of kills at this point, because I don't see my team taking the capture circle, and I'm not going to do it. So do not want to be burned down by a Yodo. Bourgogne is now being engaged. Okay, he's done a full turn. I thought he was going to go straight. I did not think he was going to go broadside onto the Gearing. But well, it is what it is. Again, it's a low health battleship, so we're not going to go for the fires, but try to do a maximum amount of damage with the armor piercing. And now, yes, the armor piercing isn't great, but the Bourgogne is also not a particularly greatly armored ship. So let's get that thing killed. And almost. Okay, one more salvo should do it. and then we can focus on the rest of the team. That should be a dead Burgoyne. No, Austin takes him out. All good. That means we now finally control the capture circle. There is still the Black Shimakaze out there, so let's see if we can make ourselves useful with the precise aim up. And that was a little short, but yeah, lots of damage from the armor piercing at this kind of range. And Yodo Cruiser might give it a try, but generally, even against cruisers, you're often better off using the high explosive. Okay, hello, Mr. Shimakaze. He is rushing, so we're switching back to high explosive. We don't want to over penetrate. And the Yodo has dodged the airstrike. That is the problem with the airstrikes. They are mostly just too easy to dodge for anything that's not a battleship. Okay, back to armor piercing against the Yodo at close range, maybe. And no Shimakaze torpedoes coming in, but we've got this. We've got this round, and that was that. You see me actually using armor piercing a little more in the first games here, because I was still trying out what I could get done with the armor piercing. And as you can see, even against a cruiser at 11, 12 kilometers, it's not great. So you get mostly semi-pens. It still does some damage, but you're usually better off just using the high explosive, honestly, even against cruisers. The only reasonable point is if you really need to maximize your damage against, say, a battleship, and you're close enough to target bow stern reliably, or if you're firing at destroyers at long ranges or mid ranges, then the actually relatively low armor piercing performance can be to your benefit. All right, there we go. We've got the Yodo done, and that was it. In terms of damage output of this ship, you can do a lot of damage if you are lucky with your target choice. So just mostly through bombers, fires, and that kind of stuff. You're not going to do an awful lot of alpha damage with the guns themselves. It's really about doing the fire combos with the level bombers. That's where the damage numbers can come from. The second round, again, is on a map that is actually not favorable to this ship, and that is Aurora. We're playing Aurora Domination. Aurora is a very open map, and we are playing against Preußen, Double Vermont, Buffalo, Hayate, and a Z-52. In an open map like that, you really have to be careful. So, spoiler alert, I will be taking on one of the Vermonts in this map. And that's why I'm showing you this game, because it can give you a bit of an idea what kind of stuff you've got to get yourself up to and what you kind of need to bring to the table in order to effectively take on enemy battleships. So first of all, I am with the Black Colombo here, and ideally one of the battleships would be taking point. In practice, that's probably not going to happen. So I'm only carefully inching forward here because look at the dotted line on my minimap. I do not necessarily want to be spotted by the two destroyers, and I'm checking the range of my airstrike here. But I am within range of the two capture circle. Colombo buggers off, but there's a großer Kurfürst, which might go aggressive into the capture circle once something has been spotted. So I might try to go wide and see if I can sort of stay behind the Kurfürst. Obvious destroyer in capture circle A, and the friendly bot Shima might actually end up spotting it. And there's one of the battleships. So and now I'm spotted. Yeah, it's the Hayate. Okay, Hayate smokes up and shots out. Sonar up. There might be torpedoes in the water, and got unlucky there with the hits. At this range, I could have used the armor piercing, honestly. So that could have definitely gone a little bit better. But Hayate is now turning away, has accelerated, and there already is the incoming fire from what I would assume is an enemy Vermont. Just sonar up to check for torpedoes. Yep, that is a Vermont. Proceed. There come the Hayate torpedoes. Sonar's been running, so this should be really to nobody's surprise. But how much do you want to bet the große Kurfürst is going to run into all of them? Okay, Vermont is obviously shooting at me because, cruiser. And even some glancing shots are, and there comes some high explosive spam from the left. It's the Buffalo. Even some glancing shots are are bad. So you do have to be careful. Okay, also Kurfürst is engaging the Buffalo and is shooting at the Vermont as well. So focus the fire on the Vermont then. I've got a single fire burning. Vermont's returning fire on the Kurfürst, but Vermont is not pushing. So I'm just inching forward onto into range of into the capture circle and into the range of my airstrikes. The Vermont is reversing, so let's place the second one after him. He's now on triple fire. He damacons. Second airstrike, that's probably a bit early, and also he's been moving forward again, so that would be missing. I do have to be careful with the battleships on my right there. And Vermont's probably, yep, he is reloaded, so reversing, taking the Vermont shots on the nose for overpens. And there is a Z-52, so there are probably torpedoes in the water. Sonar up, there they are. Yep, Z has been torpedoing me instead of going after the battleships. Not a wise choice, because that is a wasted torpedo salvo. And again, I have to turn in immediately, because Vermont, who's now gone undetected, is going to be having shots out again very soon. But he is camping behind the island, which is honestly not the smartest move at this point. I mean, I don't have any high alpha damage like torpedoes. It would be wiser for him to actually go for it in the capture circle and push me out of the cap, because there's no way I could hold the cap if he's going to be aggressive. If he's just playing the positioning game, in that I can match him. So next airstrike out, Vermont shots coming in. I'm already in reverse, and again one on the nose for the overpen. There comes the airstrike. There's the fire. Damacon the fire, you're on relatively low hit points. It'd be worth doing probably. Precise aim up, next salvo out. And we'll see if we can get another fire going. There's a second fire. Has he damacon? We'll look at the damage ticker. And yes, he has damage controlled. So now he's gone undetected, but he's probably reloaded again by now. I am spotted because the Z is spotting me over there, somewhere around B Cup. But we're controlling the capture circle. The Kurfürst has taken care of the Buffalo. Vermont is getting a glancing shot on the belt armor, and that is not going to penetrate easily, especially at this angle. Shots out again. I know exactly where the Vermont is. He hasn't been moving, and that's a fire. That should be a perma, given that he has damage controlled earlier. Blind shots out at the Vermont, timing the reload, keeping a little bit of an eye. Hayate is no threat at this range. And yeah, there's the Vermont, and he is burning. Airstrike out, sailing under his salvo, so he's just glancing through the superstructure. Again, a little look at the Hayate. The other battleship is no threat, so I can finish off the Vermont with the airstrike, and there it goes. And that's kind of how you deal with the Vermont. Now, what could the Vermont have done differently? Well, if he had pushed me, while the Großer Kurfürst was busy with the Buffalo, this would have been probably a very different battle, because even timing the reload on a Vermont, you're not going to turn the ship around that quickly. And that would have caused me would have secured them the capture circle, would have caused me to retreat, would have cost me potentially more health, and but yeah, if you get in situations like this where the enemy agrees to fight you at your maximum range of the airstrike, because that's the effective range you have to operate in. It's the airstrike range. Otherwise, you're only relying on the guns. If the enemy agrees to fight you at this range, then you can and will very much succeed, even if you're in open water. But you have to be really careful looking around and checking for flanking shots, say, from other battleships and similar things. Now, is the Prins van Oranje worth getting? It is a better Gouden Leeuw, that much for certain. Honestly, I would say it's what the Gouden Leeuw should have been, because it is a pure HE spammer, whereas the Gouden Leeuw doesn't quite know what it wants to be. It thinks it wants to be a supercruiser, like a Dutch Alaska, but at the same time, it also does not quite have the gun performance, and doesn't really know what it is. The sonar is useful, but less complaining about the Gouden Leeuw. With the legendary mod, the Gouden Leeuw is actually doable. You will have the same positioning issues, because you do need to be in effective airstrike range, which can make for very short games. So I had games where I did 20,000 points of damage and died 2 minutes in, because I I missed a Vermont somewhere or a Yamato and got slapped for 2/3 of my health in the first salvo. And then the follow-up shot just took me out pretty much. So positioning is difficult and is an absolute requirement, but you can play this kind of ship out in the open if the situation goes for it. The pure HE spammer setup just works so much better with in synergy with the airstrike, and as such, I think, is it a great ship? No, but it is a better Gouden Leo, and it is an enjoyable ship to play. Just for the thrill of it, I'd say, of saying, okay, in order to be effective, I actually have to be playing quite aggressively. And I have to put myself out there, but I also have to compensate for the fact that I'm in a honking massive super cruiser with very poor armor and a relatively low hit point pool. So it's high stakes cruiser play, and I kind of enjoy that sort of stuff. So if you like playing, well, the Dutch cruisers, if you like playing super cruisers and you think this is a good thing and you have some money left and you want to gamble for it, go for it. Otherwise, if you're playing against it, just be aware that if you're chalking it off as yet another Gouden Leo, which as long as you stay outside airstrike range is actually quite harmless, it's not as think of it more as a Dutch Goliath in terms of gun performance. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.